Okay, I think let's begin. Okay, welcome everybody to today's webinar, effectively managing Xrefs and Xref layer property overrides in AutoCAD. My name is Aldred Boyd. I'm an application engineer for Micrographics. Just below there, you can see my email address. So if there are any questions that we don't get to or something that you think about after the webinar, then please please just email me afterwards, and I'll be able to answer any questions that you might have thought of afterwards. Okay, just a little bit about myself. So I'm an industry specialist for the Autodesk manufacturing products. So Autodesk is basically sort of three different divisions: architecture, manufacturing, and the media entertainment. So in the manufacturing, they've got things like sort of obviously AutoCAD. The main product is Inventor. So that's what the guys use over there to do all their 3D modeling. Then you've also got things like AutoCAD Mechanical, AutoCAD Electrical, AutoCAD Plant, AutoCAD P&ID, and then also your data management products like the Autodesk Vault, which work both on the architectural side and the manufacturing side as well. It actually works very, very well for AutoCAD, especially with managing all your Xrefs. So if you are using AutoCAD and you sort of got a lot of different components Xref to attach to your AutoCAD file, think of using Autodesk Vault. It's actually a very good data management tool. And it comes free with with AutoCAD. So if you have got the full AutoCAD, so it doesn't work with AutoCAD LT, but if you do have the full AutoCAD, then you do also have the option to install and run Autodesk Vault as well. I've got just shy of 20 years of experience. So I've been doing this for quite a while. As I said, my forte is Inventor, but I did start off on AutoCAD and use most of its derivatives as well. So I am both AutoCAD and Inventor certified. So I've written those exams. If you are thinking of it, it's actually a very good qualification to get. We do offer those as well in our branches. We've got 4: Joburg, Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, and Durban. So it's a good little certification to have, and it'll sort of also tell you exactly where your shortfalls are when coming to the AutoCAD software. I'm also an Autodesk certified instructor. So if you do come to any of my classes, you can be happy in the fact that I have sort of had to go through my trials with Autodesk, sort of done all their exams to become an Autodesk certified instructor, to be able to teach you sort of exactly what you need to know in your Autodesk product. I've also lectured at the Autodesk University Extension, both in Joburg and Cape Town. It's primarily been on the Inventor side using iLogic. But yeah, no, so I mean, that's also great. If you haven't ever been to Autodesk University Extension, I think after COVID, maybe we'll start again next year. It's a very, very good event to go to. If you didn't know, I think next week, there's another Autodesk University happening. This is normally Autodesk University from Vegas. So normally you have to fly over. I think it costs about $2,000 to register. But this year, they're actually doing it for free, and it's going to be virtual. So if you just go Google Autodesk University, on the landing page, you'll actually see there's the registration. And this is when a whole lot of sort of professionals of Autodesk software come together and they do these kind of webinars, something like I'm doing at the moment, but much more in depth. So they'll pick like a one topic and really hammer it and go in depth into this topic. So if you do have some time next week, I think it runs for 4 days. If you do have some time next week, I would sort of really say go for it, because it's one of those events that really cannot be missed. Yeah. Okay, so just on the agenda, so we're just going to take a look at how to manage your Xrefs smartly in AutoCAD. Learn how to quickly fix missing references. So obviously when we're working with Xrefs, things go missing. Someone moves a file. Now instead of having to copy and paste a whole lot of different files around into different folders, what can we do to fix those missing references quite quickly? Then Xref layer property overrides. This is something that some people do, some people don't do. How do you control that? Changing your color, changing your line type, changing your line weight. How do you do this quickly and efficiently? So we'll just take a look at that as well. And then also, how do you visualize what's an override and what's not an override in your layer manager? And then if you do have overrides, how do you reset it? So we'll take a look at that as well. Okay, so just a little bit of a history, sort of, if you don't know, if you've never worked with it, what is an Xref? So just a little explanation I found on the internet. Xref, external reference, is just a fancy AutoCAD speak for a document you attach to a drawing. So basically, what an Xref is if you think about when we used to do drawings or hand coloring back in the old days, taking like a piece of tracing paper and putting it over it, being able to see what you've designed or drawn underneath it, and then being able to trace over it or put your own additions to that on the tracing paper without actually disturbing the original drawing. So basically, you have the host drawing, and you can import your Xref file, but it's still separate. So it's not actually sitting inside the file. It's sitting, somewhere else on your local drive or on the server, as you say. Types of documents you can import. So obviously DWG files, but what you can also attach are image files. So any JPEG, bitmap, PNG file. MicroStation files. So yes, if you are working with someone who uses MicroStation files, you can Xref those in as well. That's the file extension where that is .dgn. Then you can do PDF files as well. So Autodesk has done a lot of work with this. I mean, if you bring in a PDF, if you attach a PDF, you can see exactly what it looks like. There is also a way to import the PDF and actually convert it as well, but that's for another lesson. Then you've also got your Autodesk point cloud. So a lot of the times now, we've got, you got your guys going out doing laser scans, and those point clouds you're able to import into AutoCAD or attach into AutoCAD, and then be able to work off it. So start, attaching or creating a 3D line or 3D wall, on the points that you've got over this. You can actually snap to those point cloud points. And the final one over there is Navisworks file. So if you know about Navisworks, it's another program from Autodesk which allows you to bring in files from a whole different amounts of packages or software packages, not just Autodesk packages, any other types of packages. And it really makes it a light file so that when you navigate through it, you are able to do it quite quickly. If you had to now start importing sort of large files into AutoCAD from other people, it really does make the AutoCAD file really, really big. So Navisworks allow you to do that and make it lightweight as well. Okay, so what can we do with these reference files? What does it do? So it allows us to coordinate with our colleagues or someone else we're working with on a project in real time. Okay, so they make a change and they click on save on their file, and then your AutoCAD notifies you that, look, there's a change you made in your Xrefs. Would you like to update it? And then you can go update it. So it ensures that we've always got the latest version of that Xref drawing. It keeps your drawing style name separate. Okay, so basically, when you bring it in, your dimension styles, your text styles, your layer names. If you've got the same layer names or textile names, as the other person's drawing, you're able then to differentiate whose is whose. Where's the style come from? Is it coming from the Xref drawing, or is it actually my style? So exactly what's happening in your drawing. And then a nice thing about this, because with an Xref, it's referencing, other drawings all over the place, on the server, on your computer, on someone else's computer. It allows you to bind those drawings at the end. And this is nice for, this is great for archive purposes because, once you're done with a project, okay, right, now I need everything that's involved with this project to be in sort of one zipped file, or one folder. So let's go collect all the projects, make a copy of it inside this drawing over here, and then you can go archive that so that when you, for instance, need it for maybe later down in the line, a couple of months later, you're going to see that you're not going to have the problem if it's still Xref, that you're going to open it up and it's, oh, this Xref file is missing, that Xref file is missing, and now you've got to go find it, and it's a bit of an oopsie. So by archiving it, it brings everything together, binds it, puts it in one file so that you've got it for archive purposes. Okay, so how do we attach an Xref? So the first thing we can do is you go to your Insert tab, click on Select Attach, browse for the file, make sure that the files of type is DWG if you're looking for a DWG. I think mine keeps on defaulting to sort of point clouds, and then hit open. Once you've hit open, this dialog box pops up. And at the top over there, you'll see there I've got the name of the external reference that I'm looking for. If it's not the drawing that I'm looking for, I can go browse for another drawing. It'll give you a preview of what the drawing is going to look like. So you can just quickly see exactly what's going to be Xref'd in this. And then you've got your insert options, your scale, X, Y, and Z scale, your insertion point where you want to insert it, and then the path type. So this path type, you've got relative, you've got absolute, and you've got no path. I think from 2018.1, it defaults to relative path. So this is probably the best path to kind of take. You can rotate it, and it'll just tell you what the units are that you're bringing in. And then you've got your two reference types. So you've got attachment and overlay. So attachment, what that allows when you do that, if there's anything else in that Xref, so if that Xref is Xrefing other DWGs, it will show those. If you use the overlay reference type, and it will not Xref anything else that's Xrefed into that drawing that you're bringing into your host drawing. Okay. When you're editing Xrefs, you do have your Xref palettes over here. And at the top over here, you can see there you've got three buttons. You've got the DWG icon, the two arrows rotating, and this third one with the little staple or attachment. So the first one allows you to attach additional files. So you'll see there, my drawing one is my host file, then table and 4 chairs is my Xref file. The second button over there, you can reload or refresh your Xrefs. And then the third one, you can just change your path type to be absolute, relative, or remove path. So whatever file that you've got selected in that Xref palette. Then you can also select new path and find and replace, which we'll talk about a little bit later. That's one of the new ways that they've got to be able to find and replace lost or missing Xref files. Okay, so just another slide about the Xref palette. You've got at the top, obviously, is your files reference pane. So that's where all your drawings are. And if you select any of the Xref files or even your host file, at the bottom is your details pane. And it will tell you sort of, what's happening with it, where it is, the date you Xref'd it, etc. Okay, so looking at your absolute your path, so it's a fully defined path. So it's going to take a look at everything that you've got over there. So your C drive, program files, AutoCAD files, file name.dwg. Now, this can be a little bit dangerous because if, for instance, you're working on a server and you've got a couple of different people pointing to that server, and I've seen this happen, your mapping of that drive to the server, on one PC, it might be the M drive, one piece, it might be the D drive, one piece, it might be the F drive. And what that happens is, if it's absolute, if someone else tries to open up your file, they won't be able to find it because they've got different mappings. So you just got to be careful for that. As I said, this is used mostly for server locations, but it is the least flexible path type. Okay, and avoid if possible. I would say rather use your relative path file. Okay, the next one is relative path file. And as I said before, this is the default option when creating Xrefs. And it's a partially specified file, so it ignores the drive letter. It also assumes the folder that the file is sitting in. So it kind of automatically looks in the folder that the host file is sitting over there. You can also specify the path file. So if you don't want to go browse to it, you can just go // and then type in the file name or the path if you know where it's going to be. And it's easier to move to a different location and not lose links. Okay, there was a couple of different mechanisms which we'll see a little bit later on as well when trying to rectify lost Xref files and file links. Then you've got no path, and you might think, why do we have a no path? With no path, everything should be in the same folder, the host file folder. If the file is not there, then what it also does is in your options. So if you click on that big A in the top left hand corner, go down to options, or just type in options in your command line. If you go to your project search paths, you can specify search paths in your project. You can also specify search paths in your support as well. So you've seen that all the support support folders sort of paths. And this is very good for when you want to send your files away. So if I've got everything sitting in one file, and this is now barring project search files and support search files, one folder, I can just take that and send it to someone else, be it another company, another computer, and they'll be able to open up my Xref, my host file, and it will find all the Xrefs because it's looking in that folder with all the subfolders over there as well. Okay, so just updating Xref drawings. So when you open up a drawing, if it's been changed, it will automatically ask you, would you like to update your Xref? Okay, so if someone else changed the Xref, when you open up your drawing, it'll update it. Then you've also got the reload option in your Xref palette. Okay, so that's the little you click on one of the Xrefs. You can right click and reload. Also, then you've got the Xref bubble in the bottom right-hand corner. So that's the default, and that you'll see when someone's made a change in the file that you've Xrefed. They've clicked save. As you're drawing, that little bubble will pop up, and then you can just click on that. As you can see, the reload table in 4 chairs. It'll tell you where it's coming from, and then it will just update your drawing. So once again, you're working with the latest drawing, and it allows you to make changes. I mean, if you're doing, say, for instance, some ducting, and someone else is doing the column, placement in a building. Now you're doing ducting, and the column place, all of a sudden you see the column placement shift. Now, it might go through your ducting, so you need to, sort of rethink where the ducting needs to go. If you are a command line junkie, then to reload all your Xrefs, you can just type in /Xref, press enter, and then you'll see there's an option to press R for reload, and then just type in that star. So you put that star and it reloads all the Xrefs that you've got in there. So instead of having to go to your Xref, if you've got your Xref palette open and then selecting all your files, right click and reload, you can just type that out and it will quickly reload all those files over there for you. Okay. So with reloading as well, you'll see that we've got a little compare changes. Now, this is something new. I think it came in 2020, where it will tell you the differences between what you're reloading and what you currently have got. So at the top over there, you can see there's a little sort of cog. That's the settings for it. And then you've got the little light bulb, and that'll switch on and off the comparisons. And then by clicking on those 2 arrows, what it does is it'll actually zoom to each of the different revision cloud comparisons. So you can see there I've got some revision clouds. Now, if you've got a very, very large drawing, this is very useful because we'll actually jump to the different revisions and you can see what has been changed. So what has changed in the Xref and how is that going to affect me while I'm doing my drawing? Just in the settings over here, you can see them. If the color is red, so in this one there's no red, so you'll see that there's nothing in my drawing that's that's different from the last time I reloaded this. So sorry, it's not in the current Xref. Then in the green, it's only in the current Xref, so it's not in the host file. And then if it's gray, it's in both files. There's no differences. And then you can also display your cloud revision. You can say what color the cloud revision is going to be. So you just click on that orange or yellowish sort of block over there. It'll give you the color palette. And then you can change your cloud revision size and shape as well. Okay. And then at the bottom over there, if there are hatches, now hatches are quite heavy when you're working with it. So if there are hatches, you can actually display those hatch comparisons, yes or no, or display text comparisons. So if there is text happening between the 2 different files, you can just see if you want to look at that or not. Okay, so now these are sort of the different notifications that you get. So basically, when you are working in AutoCAD with your Xrefs, if you want to get notifications, have either 1 or 2. So with number 1, it just has a little warning triangle in the bottom right-hand corner. And number 2, it does the warning notification and the notice balloons as well. So if you don't want that and you find it a little bit irritating because you're trying to concentrate on your drawing and this thing keeps on popping up on the right-hand side, you can disable it as well and then update when you are ready to update. So you type in Xref notify, it'll give you the options to do either 0, 1, or 2 as your system variable. Okay. how the layers in your host file look like with your Xref. So as you can see here in my current drawing, look, I've just got layer 0, but then I've got 5 different layers that are coming from the table and 4 chairs Xref. And then you'll see there, it puts a slash on, and then layer 1, layer 2, 3, 4, and then the different properties of it in the layer. Now, Xref layer property override. So, with this over here, if you just take a look at it, you can actually go override any of those different properties over there. Now, when you override them, what happens? So I'm in my host file, override it. I want all the colors to maybe be gray, but obviously you've got the person, using the Xref file. So, and if they make a change, what happens? Are the layer properties updated from the Xref? Does that push through to your file? So whatever modifications you did, gets disregarded. Do my modifications stay the same? Can I disregard anything that he's doing or she's doing because I don't want to see their colors and their line types and all of that. I just want to see what I've modified. Or can I change some and keep others? Basically, the answer is all of the above. So there are 3 system variables that control this: Xref override, visRetain, and visRetain mode. If you don't like working with these system variables and you want a more visual look at it, if you go into your layers and you go to your layer settings, you'll see on the right-hand side of here, you've got Xref layer settings and treat Xref object properties as by layer. Okay, so that top right-hand corner over there is basically visual representation of that Xref override, visRetain, and visRetain mode. So what can you modify in your Xref layer properties? So basically, it controls your color, on, off, freeze, thaw, line type, line weight, and plot styles. So you change any of that in your layers for the layers of the Xref, and yeah, so you can sort of control those or override them. So the first system variable we'll take a look at is your Xref override. Okay. If you change that value to 0, any changes to the properties made in the Xref on by layer changes the host file. Okay. So and then if you change the value to 1, any changes to the properties made in the Xref not set to by layer does not change in the host file. Okay. The default setting for this is 0, and this system variable is saved in the drawing. So this is actually, from drawing to drawing. So sometimes in the drawing you want it to be 0, and sometimes you want it to be 1. And then just, where that is treat Xref object properties as by layer. So that would be setting your Xref override to 0. Okay, so how does it look? So if I've got Xref override equals 0, so what I've done over here, you've seen a couple of the previous slides, my layer 1 to 5 of my table and 4 chairs has been different colors. And what I've done is I've gone and changed all of it to a grayish color, number 8. But if you take a look at what it's changed in my drawing, that one circle in the bottom right-hand corner is still green. Okay, so basically that green, that object in my Xref file, I went to it, selected it, and in my properties, I said, it must be green. It mustn't be by layer. So that's why it didn't change with Xref override equals 0. So if you want it to be all the same color and disregard, even if it's by layer or by color, or the line weight is by layer, or you've actually specified a line weight in your properties, it will then go and change everything to do that. So it actually ignores that and will choose everything to be gray over there. Then you've got the visRetain system variable. So with the value of 0, modifications in the host drawing do not retain the changes after host file is closed and reopened. So what this means is that if I make those changes in my layer properties, and then someone changes the Xref file, if I close it and reopen it, it's going to revert back to the properties of the Xref file. And with 1, the modifications in the host drawing retain the changes after being closed and reopened. So whatever changes I make in my layer properties, if the Xref file, if layer properties are changed over there, if I close my drawing, the host file, open up again, the Xref doesn't push those changes into my file. I retain things like making all my layers gray, or my changing my line types to line weights to 0.5 or whatever it is. The default setting for this is 1, okay, and then the system variable is also saved in the drawing. So you'll have to look at it drawing by drawing and not sort of a system wide. Okay, so just as I said, vis retain equals 0. You make your changes. So there in the left-hand side, you can see it's kind of all like turquoise. I close my file and reopen it, and guess what happens? It takes back the original layer properties of the Xref drawing. Vis retain equals 1. I make my changes. Okay, so that's on the left-hand side. I close my drawing, I reopen it, and then you'll see there it retains those changes that I made on the right-hand side over there. Okay, then you've got vis retain mode. So now what happens if you want to have the best of both worlds? Okay, so vis retain mode, this variable, okay, so allows for a dual system of control, and you'll choose what, sort of what controls what. Do I want my host file to control it, or do I want the Xref file to control it? Now, there are command line sort of values to this, but there's a whole bunch. And I think, just with regards to this, I think it's a little bit outdated. 0, 1, or 2 is quite easy to kind of look at. It's much easier to see exactly what's going on over here. So if you go to your layer settings, you'll see there, I want to retain overrides to my Xref layer properties, Xref layer properties to reload, except overrides. And you'll just pick what you don't want to override over here. Okay, so just a little visual tip over here. If you wanted to know, or if you ever wondered what these little DWG sort of icons over here are, these are saying that this system variable exists in the drawing, and it's not an overall AutoCAD system variable. So, this is the layer settings. If you go to options in AutoCAD as well, you'll see that these little icons sort of exist as well. So if you ever wonder what that is, it is this over here. Okay, so this is something that you might not have known. If you are working with your Xref layer property overrides, how do you very quickly visualize or see what I've overridden? I'm looking at my layers, and all I see is layer, table and 4 chairs, layer 3, layer 4, or my layers, or different drawings layers. How do I know what I've overridden? So you can highlight that layer in your layer palette by going to override display settings over here, and I can see the Xref override background color. And on the right hand side of it, you can see there it highlights the name of the layer in purple, and it will also highlight what you've changed. So if I put it on or off, or locked it, or unlocked it, or plotted it, changed the plot style, it'll highlight that in the purple that I've chosen. Okay, so that's a nice, quick, and easy way to visually see what's being what's being overridden or not. Then you've got your if you don't have that sort of highlight on, what you can also see over here is the different icons on the left hand side. So you've kind of got like this blue surface over here for layer 1, 2, and 5. Okay, so that hasn't been overridden. And then you've got the one that looks like a little paper clip with a piece of white paper. So those two I've actually modified. So those layer properties I've modified and are different in my drawing from the original drawing where it's come from. Okay, so once I've done all of this, instead of having to go, now I want to get rid of my overrides. Okay, so if you've got quite a lot and you've got maybe like 150 layers, I have to go through to each one of them and how do you know what you've overwritten it from? And very quick and easy way, you go into your layer properties and you'll see there, right click on any of the layers. You can go reset Xref layer properties for the selected layers. So you can either hold down Control or Shift and do your multi-select. And then you've got also, or you can just do all layers. So you can just do one sweep. You can do everything right off the bat. And you can also pick what you want. So is it all properties or on, freeze, lock, plot, or color, line type, line weight, transparency, plot style, your new viewport freeze, or description. Okay. So you do have those options as well, just to quickly reset it to what was originally that came in, instead of having to go and pick and choose and not trying to, sort of open up the original Xref, seeing what colors there are. and try and sort of mess around with that. So they do make it quite easy just to get rid of all those overrides in one go. Boom, done. Okay, just on the left-hand side over there, you can see they've just got some layer filters as well. So this also helps us just to quickly see the layers of a particular Xref or all the layers. So just going on the left-hand side of the, you can look at all the layers, look at all your non-Xref layers. So there's basically your layers. Look at all the used layers. So sometimes some of your layers might not be used because you've got a template, you've got all your layers in. Start drawing, you haven't done a purge yet, but you haven't put any objects on that layer yet. So just all used layers. Then you've got an Xref portion over there. And the nice thing about that, it actually, whatever Xref you got over there, it will also list under that Xref, the Xref line item. And if you click on each of those Xrefs, then it will just show the layers for that Xref. So you can also manage it through that and then maybe lock it, maybe change a color, maybe change a plot style or something like that. And then you can also just look at your Xref override. So anything that you've modified from Xref, you can filter out those Xref sort of modifications or layers over there. Okay, so just managing Xrefs. Have you ever seen this? So you open up an Xref and it says the current drawing was saved to a different location. Do you want to update, reference with relative paths? Okay, so they have made it a lot easier. I think I moved this. So I did a file save copy as, and I did it to a different folder location over here, and then this external reference relative paths come up. So it's always trying to keep the paths relative. So this is that kind of smart Xref, AutoCAD Xref functionality coming out here now, where it's trying to just update your relative paths instead of having to go and manually click on each individual Xref in your Xref palette and go and finding it wherever it is. Okay. If you move the location of the host file and open up the Xref palette, you can also select a new path. And what it does is, when you've moved it, it says there one or more Xref reference files could not be located. What would you like to do? You can automatically open up the Xref palette, or you can ignore and then obviously do it later. But if you open the Xref palette, it said, then what you do is you'll go to the first one that you've got. So you right click and you go find where it is again, because it will have the missing file path. Once you've found the first file, okay, and you've said, yes, great, I found it, and it's located at Xref, it'll actually say, it'll ask you, would you like to apply the same path to other missing references? So then it will just, instead of having to go to every single Xref that you've got and, right click, go find new path, it'll kind of just say, listen, right, there we go. Let me just find everything in the same path that you've specified for the first Xref. So if everything is sitting in the same folder, it will go find all of those for you as well. And if it's sitting in different folders, then obviously go to each different folder, find one Xref in it, and it'll go find all the other different Xrefs that you've got sitting in that folder over there. Okay, so one of the new things that they've got over here is find and replace. Okay, so that find and replace over here allows us to, if you've maybe you've had one folder and you've had all your Xrefs in that one folder. Now, for some reason, maybe your server blows up or it's about to blow up and you need to move everything to a new server, but there's different folder structures and stuff like that. You take that your folder with all your Xrefs and you go put it in another folder. And then what you do is, before the server blows up, you say find the saved path and you go find that folder there, replace with, and you go find your new folder that you've copied everything onto with a new server. And it will then update all the paths over there, and it will be relative as well. Okay. And that's basically what we have for Xrefs. It's there's not a lot of the most important thing I think for managing the Xrefs would be the select new path and find and replace, and also the fact that they've got your the relative path as the default. I think that came in at 2018.1. I think is quite nice because it makes it easier. It makes it more flexible. You're not locking yourself into one path or one folder. When you are working with Xrefs, and it just makes your life a little bit easier as well. Okay. Okay. Cool. Any questions? You can either unmute yourself or you can also just type in the chat bar at the bottom. So all this functionality is available both in AutoCAD LT and the full AutoCAD as well. Okay. So anything that any of the Xref stuff that I sort of put in here is available to both. So it doesn't matter which AutoCAD you're using. Okay, if there's no more questions, thank you very much. Great, guys. Have a fantastic Friday afternoon and weekend. And yeah, be safe out there. Thanks very much for joining.